Okay, so you guys kind of know the script now. I still don't have an introduction. I'm going to write that down. I'm going to do an intro soon. Uh, I'm excited to have this guest on today. Long-term pal. I've known you for a long time, and I was trying to
Yeah,
figure out.
like high school back in the day, man. It's been many years.
Yeah, yeah. And I actually looked into my list, and you were high on the list, whether you believe that or not. I have like a list of who I'm going to try and ask to get on, and you were high up there. So if you believe me or not, I swear,
Much
I am like
appreciated.
excited to
Much
have you on. I'm
appreciated.
excited to chat. Some of you may or may not know Wade. Wade is based in Forfar,
Yeah.
and I'm going to let him talk a little bit about that. Me and Wade, like I say, come like pally from like way back in school. If I could drive, would probably be my training partner.
100%.
Just all round beast in the gym and a very good guy. So thanks very much for coming on, Wade. I'm going to just get
No,
you to
mate,
tell us a little bit
it's an
about
absolute
yourself.
pleasure
And then,
having me on. So thank you very much for having me on. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's really cool to be asked. About myself, my name's Wade. I have been in the industry for when I think back, it's like I think like has it been 10 years? And then you think actually no, it's been like longer, and you just kind of forget how long you're here for, because it's not as if it's like it's another year that you just, when there's another year ticked off the list, there's another year ticked off the list. It's just, I suppose it's just because you enjoy what you do. I've been a trainer for 10 plus years. I've been in the fitness industry for quite some time. I started off when I was first started back at doing boot camps and doing kickboxing classes, and very much, I suppose, body weight and class very orientated. I worked for the council for a long period doing all the body pump and BTS kind of classes, and then it didn't take me long to get out of that and get into some, I suppose, personal training. And then I've been personal training Gen Pop, I would call it, essentially for quite some time now. For like I say, probably about 7 to 10 years roughly, maybe more actually if I really think about it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know. I don't. Yeah, if I don't.
Nah,
Know if you
I'm
want
going to
more
pry it
from
out of
me.
you because you're too humble. We're gonna pull it out of you. Like there's a few PTs: Vaughn Wilson, yourself, obviously Chris Simpson because he mentored me so much. There's been there's not very many, but there's been a few PTs that I've always kind of like kept my eye on and like liked what they were about, and I seen what they were doing, and I was like, they're good. Like they've got pieces that I'm going to steal, and I'm going to be like them, and I'm going to use their things. And one of the things when I definitely want to talk about this, you have this love for doing hard shit, and I want to bring up your boot camps because I can remember you used to do boot camps at what time in the morning,
6 a.m.s.
and you used to do them like rain, shine,
Oh,
snow.
dude. Like, what, first boot camp, like, again, it must have been about 12, 13 plus years ago. My very first one, I had 3 people, maybe 4 people come. And this wasn't early. This was at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, but it was pissing down. I hope you don't, is it okay to swear on this? I do swear.
My
an
mum
awful
might
lot.
get upset at me, but we'll be all right.
Okay, well, I apologise now. I will try and keep it kind of down. But yeah, man, it was like 4 people, or 3 people, I think it was, at like 5 o'clock on a Thursday, and it was like fucking going for it. And I got these texts from these people. I'm assuming it's off, and I'm like, nah, it's still on. Like we're still going. I was like, you will be fine because you will be moving. You will be warm. I am going to be standing there like a drowned rat, freezing my arse off. Just. Yeah, doing absolute zero. So you will be okay because you'll be shifting, you'll be keeping warm. But yeah, boot camps were always a favourite of mine, to be honest with you, mate. Because again, rain or shine, you'd have people coming in all sorts, all shapes and sizes, and just giving it their all. And I don't know about you, but I know that when I see a client like, fuck, I just did X, Y, and Z. I didn't think I could, and I'm like, yes, man. You get that pump, and you get that kind of. I almost feel it and feel what they're feeling, if that makes sense. You kind of empathize with them and like, yeah, it's great. I know the feeling, da 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 da. So, boot camps were always one that was just great fun to do because you pushed people out of their comfort zone. But pushing people out of their comfort zone, you've seen how much joy that they got from it come the end of it. And that's what gave me so much joy, which is one of probably the biggest reasons to why I kept that going for so long, because I loved it.
I wonder then, like, I wasn't even thinking about this until you just started riffing off there. I wonder if we're like a dying generation of like, a lot of people now just come PT online coach. That's like their journey. They start PT and the online coach, build up a big social media, and they get loads of clients. When we started, you had to do that. You had to be like out doing one-to-ones because gyms weren't open. You have to like sit at a park. I used to have to do them at Vicky Park. I'm sure.
Yes.
Like there was.
I used to have to drive through to Montrose to see a couple of clients and run around. Was it Montrose? Yeah, run around like by the not the basin, but like Rouge Leap and all that. I would have to do like 7-8 runs at least a week. Because those were the clients that I had that were into. So like you were just having to constantly move, work, and you were putting in a shift like without even really realizing it. You know what I mean?
But like I guess we'll pry this out of you because again you are very humble with what you're doing. But you built that boot camp up. I can remember seeing like I don't know the busiest you ever had, but I can remember seeing like huge like 12, 15, 20 people in that park with you. So can you talk through a bit of like how you built it up, just what the steps were, and then what we'll do is we'll talk about when you decided to shift towards a bit more one-to-one because you've built up some pretty impressive things, and I think you're trying to like.
So boot camp, again, mate. It's one of these things where it's you start with great intentions. And I wanted to. You always want to build something amazing, and you want everybody to jump in. But when 2 people come, you're like, "Fuck, okay, what am I doing wrong here?" You know, scratching the head. But it's one of these things where, regardless of how many people came, whether it was 2 or whether it was 3, it was always on, and it wouldn't be cancelled. And if one person showed up, it would still be on. It wouldn't be like, no, I'm cancelling the class because it's only you today. Nah, we're doing this, and you're going to get a one-to-one session for for £5 because that's what I charge for my boot camp per head. And don't be wrong, there was days where we'd have 2 or 3, but then there was days where it slowly built up, and I would have 20 people outside, and those were. It's difficult as a coach to apply as much motivation, effort, and enthusiasm to that one individual person as it is to a group of 20 people, because you still want that one person to come back and feel like, this is just as good. You know what I feel like I'm getting just as great of a service. It took a long time, but it's one of these things where I feel like people buy into people. And the reason why my boot camps got so good was just because, 1, I showed up every single time it was on, didn't get cancelled. And 2, I would obviously know everybody there. I would know what's wrong with them. I would know if they had any injuries. I would take the time to obviously give my time to every single person. And friends bought friends. Before you know it, it was that 1 soon turned into 5, that 5 soon turned into 10. And before you know it, I had 20 people out there sometimes. It helped because of where I was, because I was in the campus. So the Forfar Community Centre, or Lochside Leisure Centre it was called. So that, and because I was known within there, and because I used almost that as a base, a lot of members from there came to my private classes, which also obviously helped. It was one of these things where it just took time. To be honest with you, it took time and just, I suppose, constantly showing up. Really, there was no magic.
Yeah, that was what I stole from you. I can remember seeing posts, and I don't know if it was on Facebook or whatever it was at the time. I don't know what it was or what you were sharing. And I can remember seeing you like in the rain and that, and I can remember being like, there was times where I was in the gym and it would be cold, and I would almost want to cancel because I was like, I don't really want to. But I would see you then being like outside, pissing rain, and I was like, nah, I have no right to be cancelling anything. And it was always like a motivator, like it like fired me on, it spurred me on to toughen up, I guess, a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But from like, so if you were busy boot camps, busy classes, what was it then that made you decide you wanted to maybe like kind of diverge a bit and go towards the one-to-one coaching?
Good question. I think a couple of reasons. One was I was working full-time as a fitness advisor for Lochside Leisure Centre. So it was writing programs for people. It was, doing inductions in the gym, this, that, and the next thing. So for me, it was almost like a logical progression. And I also felt like I wanted to work with people who wanted to do better and do more. So somebody coming in, Sandra coming to the gym for an induction and gets a 15-minute meeting with me and gets a program written out for 4 weeks. That's it. You know what I mean? There is no input, no effort really from Sandra whatsoever. It is just, I've got this little gym program, and if I don't see Sandra again, it doesn't really matter. So I've not really made that much of an impact into Sandra's life, as where I knew that on a one-to-one basis. Sandra putting some, essentially, money on the table and saying, I need to invest, I need to do better. And then it's me then making sure that Sandra's actually rocking up and making sure that Sandra's doing the work and making sure that Sandra's actually changing. So it came from a point where it was a logical progression with regards to myself, my business. However, it's also one of these things where I thought, well, if I can implement and I can impact more people better, then it's probably the right thing to do. And obviously then it's you were a leisure centre wage, you know what I mean? I was like 15 grand a year. So it was pennies, you know what I mean? So it was one of these things where if I want to, do better, be better, have a family, get a house, that's the next thing, is I need to think bigger and I need to be bigger and better. So I have to, what else can I do? And for me, it was like, well, actually, I want to work with more people. And at that time, I was also working with a lot of kids. I did a lot of kickboxing kind of coaching for kids and stuff, and for adults. So I had a small kickboxing school in Brecon. And then as that time went on, I realised, actually, I don't really want to work with kids. As much as I loved working with children and kids and like coaching football and basketball and all this as I started throughout college, I realised that, kids are great to work with. However, I want to work with serious adults, and I want to, I suppose, push people a bit more and push myself a bit more. I guess that's why I went from coaching kids to then doing boot camps to then from boot camps to working at one-to-ones. It almost felt like this kind of logical progression for me into where I needed to be and wanted to be. If that makes sense.
No, that's perfect. And I guess this is just something I'm kind of going to riff off. And I've never done. I used to do classes for Fit for Purpose, and that was when Glenn, Sarah, and Chris, they owned it. And I used to not get the same, what would it be? I didn't get the same energy back. And what I started to find is people, and again, my sister coaches classes. She loves it. She's amazing what she does. I work in a gym where they do classes, and the classes are fantastic. I don't know if yourself, you do classes are great. They're a great form of exercise. But what I find is the people that go to classes are normally those people that think, I'm going to burn fat in the class. They think, I need to do exercise to undo the weekend.
Yeah.
And I found that I'm trying to educate these people, but they're just not listening. They don't care what I'm saying. They think this hour is going to sort their week. And that's what made me kind of transition away from that to more one-to-one. That look, I'm going to tell you, that's not how it works, and they would listen. Yeah. And I don't know if that was you're saying that you were trying to find the people that would be a bit more serious, or you'd be able to impact them more. Did you find that was a similar case?
One thing I completely agree, 100%. When I was doing these body pump classes, I would have anywhere between 20 to 30 people in my class doing body pump, and I can guarantee you only 5 people out of that class were actually listening to me and listening to coaching points, and everybody else would be daydreaming, thinking what's they going to have for tea, what they need to do afterwards, because they know the motions, you know what I mean? Yeah. Which is why when I built up my gym, it was our classes, our small group classes, specifically designed for no more than kind of 10 people. You will have a lot of one-to-one time with the coach, and we will make sure that you're doing things properly. And it's not a matter of, you can't be thinking what's for dinner, and you can't be thinking what you've got to do afterwards. You're going to be, arse to grass deep in a squat. You need to be very present with what you're doing right now. So again, it's me jumping the gun. It was one of the biggest reasons to why I built the gym and built the classes up that we have, was to get away from the whole body pump and those big mass classes where you've got 20, 30 people and no one's really present. Because again, it's yourself when you're in your gym session, you need to be present. If you're underneath that bench or underneath that bar, or you've got that bar on your back, or you're about to deadlift, or whatever it might be, you need to know exactly where you're doing, what you're doing, what's going to work, and how body position needs to be, and etc. etc. And that's one of the reasons why I developed the classes that we developed, was to make sure that we took people away from the body pump and into this format. So it's almost then a logical progression for the members and the clients to, this is body pump, this is great. Okay, now this is actually how you're supposed to train. Okay, now, and then it's taking them from then to class to then hopefully one-to-one, or at least them going from our classes to then saying, well, actually, I can train in a gym effectively by myself now. I don't have to do body pump, and I don't have to do spin. I've spent a year doing your women's lifting classes, your strength and conditioning classes, your beginner strength classes, whatever the classes that we do, and they can then walk away and say, actually, I can go to a gym and I can just lift, and I know how to, and I can do it confidently and comfortably. Sorry, I've kind of leaped ahead quite a bit, but
no, mate, no, genuinely, this is exactly what I want this to be, and you actually just reminded me of something. I have a T-shirt, a Nike T-shirt that says "Stop exercise and start training," and I think a key word that you used there is training. So, like, my definition, I suppose, of exercise is like a set amount of time that you're going to move. Yeah, like, it don't matter what you do, it doesn't matter how hard. You're going to exercise. You're just going to go move. It's a bit faster and it's a bit more strenuous than just being alive. Training is a process. It's a process with progress that has an outcome.
Yeah, 100%.
You're there to achieve something. And I think, I love what you're doing. Like, I love your place. And I really want to talk about that. Like, I want to make like a whole segment on that, because I love what's happening there. I love what you're doing in there. I love what your members know they're a part of as well.
Yeah.
Like, they're celebrating even you getting PBs, because they get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%.
And I think that's amazing. But I think that, like, the key word from what you were saying there is, like, you've created a training environment, not just exercise.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's one of these things where I spent so long getting people to exercise. And I spent so long watching people, like, so for me, body pump was my class that I taught at Lochside Leisure Centre, and I taught that for fucking years. And I would do 2 to 3 classes a week. And like I said, it's the same thing. You can have anywhere between 8, 10 to 20 to 30 people in the class. But I never felt like people were there, present, listening. And you're right, they were just there to burn calories. They weren't there to learn how to squat and to bench. And so you're giving all these coaching points out, and reasons to why biomechanics is the way it is and how you should move properly. I remember towards the last year of me coaching, for every release that came out, I would spend the first week to 2 weeks doing technique work with all my classes. So I can guarantee you no other body pump coach would have.
No.
What I did was there would be, I would say, right, this week the new release, before the new release starts, we're going to go through squats, we're going to go through deadlifts, we're going to go through bench press. We're going to go through these 3 exercises so that when we actually start the release next week, you guys are going to do things more effectively and properly. And I did that on every single release for about a year or so, and I noticed that numbers almost started to tail off, because a lot of folk weren't interested. A lot of people did. Some people didn't really care. It was just, I'm here to just get a sweat on a move. I don't really care about how to do things properly. And for me, it was like, well, that's completely fine. However, this is how I'm going to do this, and this is how I'm going to teach it. And if you don't want to do this, then that's completely fine. But for me, I would rather see you doing things properly, more effectively, more efficiently, and learning how to, I suppose, lift better than you coming in here and putting a 10-kilogram bar on your back and doing 50 squats, and every single squat's just dog shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, 100%.
Again,
and like, I don't want to. I kind of half am, and I don't mean it to, like, dogging on classes. But like, if you're going to exercise, and that's the only way someone is going to exercise, go do that. Like, that's like, we will support you, even though we're saying that that's not how we do things. Yeah. If the only time someone has to exercise, or the opportunity they have, is in a class, go do it.
Do it. But if you can do it well and do it more effectively, please do.
100%. And I remember I used to say to a lot of people, like, I can remember the first time I'd done actual HIIT training, like the high intensity interval stuff. I remember the first time I'd done it, and then people were coming up to me after the classes being like, yeah, I just done 2 HIIT sessions, 2 HIIT classes, and I was like, no, you never. I've done 4 minutes of HIIT before, and it, like, nearly killed me. Like, you're not. And I used to always say to people as well, like, they'd be like, oh, but I've done 3 classes back to back to back, and I was like, well, you're not going hard enough in the first one.
Why? Why are you going 3 classes back to back to back?
I think it's that accumulation of calories burned means I can eat more, or I can do whatever. Yeah,
I agree. I totally agree. But I also think that, I think it comes to the point where I think sometimes I also have to step back and remember who I am and what I do. if that makes sense. And I do what I do. I train and I exercise, and I love it. However, not everybody does, and a lot of people out there fucking hate it. And a lot of people will be like, I'm going to go to this class because I know it's going to burn calories and move, and it's going to get me, I suppose, quote unquote, healthier. But there's my hour for the week, done. And you know what? 100% fair play, crack on. But they're not necessarily the people that we're trying to reach and trying to speak to.
No.
But it's hard to voice out that message and expect everyone to listen, and everyone to appreciate it, accept it, and actually change it, because
100%. And the thing is, we live in like this crazy world now where like people are going to take it as if we're saying, "Oh, what, you don't want me to exercise?" No.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not what we're saying. We're saying there's better ways for you to train to achieve your goals than there are just going somewhere thinking that you're going to burn fat, because you're going to burn calories, but you're not actually going to directly burn fat. But I guess we'll probably move away from that before we start like upsetting the instructors and that.
Right in.
So, I guess being in the fitness industry as long as you have and doing the one-to-ones for as long as you have, how many like rebrands have you had or have you done? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, well, how could I put it? As in, like one business rebrands, or like how many? I suppose jobs have I kind of partaken in? And
yeah, let's say that. Let's go with that. Like, from
right. Well,
on you go.
Oh, so well, let's say I kind of started out in the industry, coaching, football coaching, basketball coaching for schools, and kickboxing coaching. So there wasn't necessarily a brand. It was just like, young Wade just trying to get in the game and just trying to teach people how to do things, because it was, at that point, was what I enjoyed. And then when I got to work at the Forfar Lochside Leisure Centre, I suppose that's when the brands essentially started to come into play. Like boot camp then became a thing. I actually kind of joined, what was it called? Was it the Best Boot Camp, I think it was called? It was this London-based company that you paid them, and then they gave you templates, this, that, and the next thing. It was actually a friend of mine, Jason, who kind of got me into it all. But then we soon realised that, I don't need to be paying another company to be helping me run my business, because I am more than capable of doing this myself.
Yeah.
So I kind of, did it on my own. I got into some other bits and bobs, let's say, that helped and didn't help, and that kind of changed the business a lot, changed me mentally an awful lot as well, with regards to, I suppose, Herbalife and that kind of thing. And then once that kind of stopped, and happily to, man, definitely.
Right, well, we'll come back to that, because I think that's a good, I don't know if that's a section that we can talk about, like mistakes that we've made, or... But we'll go.
Oh, that's definitely one of the mistakes. Yeah. Well, yeah. And then I suppose, Wade Bowen personal training kind of came into this. Essentially, it was a BMR that started off, and this is when, and one of the reasons why, it was one of my clients. His name's Alan McCauley, and I know I don't know about you, but I know that when I train clients, typically I feel like my retention for clients is great. I will keep clients for essentially years. And if I don't keep a client for a year, it's because we've completed the job, we've got that person to that part of the process. However, I'll still keep in touch with them. And Al McCauley, he was one of the boys who he came to my boot camp. He's a builder. He owns his own building company. He came to my boot camp to get fitter. He was there for a good couple of years. Then he decided to come to me for one-to-ones because he wanted to get fitter and healthier, because he wanted to compete back in judo. He's a black belt in judo, so he was like, right, I want to go to like my masters, I want to go and do world championships, this, that, and the next thing. So it was then getting him from not doing much to then competing. So after that process, he was like, I will want to buy into Wade Bowen whatever way I can. He sat me down and he says, whether we build merch, whether we do something, I want to be a part of this process, because you've essentially just lifted me right up. And I remember that conversation very well, and it was one of those points where you were just like, oh fuck, like I've really helped change this guy. And it was how can I put it? It was one of these moments where you just think, okay, yeah, this is one of the biggest reasons. This is the biggest reason to why you do what you do, because you get people being like, yeah, dude, let's do something together. You know what I mean? And that's when this whole BMR started to develop. So me, Jane, and Alan started to develop into BMR, which was then going to be a very online kind of training kind of base with programs and nutrition, this, that, and next thing. But lo and behold, just one thing after the other, Alan's building business started to take off, and he started having to build houses upon houses, and our one-to-one sessions started to kick off, because again, we were putting loads of information and content out constantly. This was years ago. And because of that, it was like, oh, I've now got 30 to 40 clients a week. Great. So then it then became very difficult to then do anything online. So I then took away from that BMR business and then started to, I suppose, just Wade Bowen coaching essentially. We still worked under the BMR kind of bracket, but then it became Fitness Hub essentially. We built a gym a couple of years ago, and then I started to do a lot more online coaching, which is where you see that the whole Wade Bowen kind of stuff nowadays, you know. So yeah, that's I don't know if that's answered your question.
No, it has. Because this is the thing I think a lot of people don't get, that like, when you're a personal trainer, you are more than just someone that goes to a gym with people. Mm-hmm. Especially when you become like a self-employed personal trainer. You're the accountant, the bookkeeper. Yeah. You are the social media designer, the virtual assistant. Like, you are everything until you start outsourcing it. Yeah. And I kind of wanted to like people to see that like the journey of like, it doesn't go from, and this will kind of relate to people's fitness journeys as well. It doesn't just go from day one starting to suddenly being at this like spectacular place. Can you still hear me, Wade?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you froze for a second there.
Oh, right, sorry.
And like, I think that's like a thing with personal training. Like, you have to develop as a personal trainer. You become better. You start providing more content, more value, and it takes time to become like the entity that you end up being. Mm-hmm. And I think it's good to hear that, and I think it's good to hear again from you, like the ups. And then I would love to hear a bit more about, like, because I think that the fitness industry, you'll see yourself as well in the fitness industry. There's a lot of like business gurus, and they'll try and belittle the amount that PTs make. They'll try and like justify how much PTs should be making. And what happens is there are these like external pressures to potentially add on. And this is where I want to talk about like the Herbalife thing. Things start getting added in. And what was it that like at that time that you decided that was like something that you were going to be a part of, or you were going to invest your own time in?
The biggest thing that drove me to take on that whole process, money, in all honesty, was at that point it was difficult for me. So it was off the back end of me being at uni, if I can remember correctly. I was almost kind of starting out the whole process. Boot camps were starting. PT essentially was there. It was starting. I wasn't overly too busy with PT. I had a full-time job at Lochside Leisure Centre as a fitness advisor, and I was going to uni part-time. And in all honesty, man, I had very little money. I was skint. So there was difficult days. There was very hard days. There was days where I couldn't afford to put fuel in my car at some point. You know what I mean? Just because it was hard. I remember actually back then I would have to ask and borrow money from one of the members of staff just to be able to put fuel in my car so I can go home and know that I can get back to work next day. I remember one day I had to actually not steal. I put fuel in my car knowing I couldn't pay for it at the petrol station. It was one of those things where it's like, oh, I'm so sorry, my car's been declined. I'll come back, next day or whatever to pay for it. So it was hard. So it was one of the biggest drivers. Was like one of my clients was on it. One of the members, one of the bootcamp members was on it, and she was like, oh, you can earn thousands of pounds, and she obviously sold it very well. And me at that point, when I was like, fuck, I could actually do with some more money here because this is kind of difficult. I could need some help. Bingo, done, great. And I'm not gonna lie, mate, it helped my business. It helped my income a great deal. I want to say I helped an awful lot of people. I don't know if I helped them. I know that I didn't help them long term because of what the whole process is. It's like, yeah, let's drink these shakes, and you're going to lose loads of weight, and you're this, that, and the next thing. Don't be wrong, you do, because your calorie intake's fucking, went from 3,000+ calories a day to 1,200 to 1,500 calories a day. However, it was one of these things where I think I did Herbalife for a couple of years. I soon started to realize how my mentality towards the whole process wasn't getting any better. It was almost kind of declining. And what I mean by that is Tom called up for a consultation about Herbalife. All right, great. In the back of my head, it was then, right, what can I sell Thomas? And not what can I give Thomas? You know what I mean? Yeah. It was like, it then went from what can I provide Thomas and how can I help Thomas to what can I sell Thomas? And that's why I soon started to realize I don't like who I'm becoming. I don't like why I'm doing this now, because it's now taking me away from why I started this process. And I sure as fuck don't want to be doing this for any length of time if that's how I feel like I'm going to be treating people, if that makes sense. So it was like, well, regardless of the money that I made from it, was like, nah, done, finished. I stopped more because of me and how it made me than the actual product itself.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
So,
yes, the product isn't great, and the product wasn't. Yeah, mate. If you give anybody a fucking protein shake for 2 meals a day or 1 meal a day and tell them not to eat food, they're going to lose fucking weight. You know what I mean? It's a no brainer. Whether it's Herbalife or whether it's fucking My Protein, doesn't really matter. If you take all that away, that's essentially all that's left. So. But I decided to stop it and to call it because I was no longer feeling like I was providing the service that I wanted to provide. So that was one of the biggest reasons to why I stopped it, because I felt like I was just robbing people of money and not actually giving value and providing value for them.
Yeah, and the reason I asked is because that's the second time I've heard that story. Last time I was at the gym, we spoke about it, and I wanted people to hear it because I think there will be a couple PTs that listen, and they'll be in these like positions where they're like, right, I might bend my integrity a little bit.
Yeah.
And sometimes there are, and like I'm not going to tell people to not make money. Like people get confused when I say don't focus on making money. Like it'll come with the service that you provide, but I think there are PTs that will be like struggling and they'll be worrying and they'll be close to buying into these sorts of things.
Well, you know how it's like. You know what it's like in this business. You know what I mean? You've got to put the work in continuously. Otherwise, if you don't put the work in now, in 6 months' time, you're going to be struggling. If you don't continually put those posts out and put that information out and make sure you're providing for your clients, in 6 months' time, they're fucking off. They're going someplace else. So it's not as if it's like a cushy 9 to 5 that you know that you can sustain and that you've got for the next 5-10 years. It's not the case at all. It's one thing that you constantly have to grow and work and I suppose make effort in. And when there's a load of PTs out there that are providing essentially the same service, not essentially the same service, but providing what other people would think is the same thing as you, then it's very easy for your members or your clients to say, well, you know what, I don't feel like I'm being provided for here, see you later. So it's difficult, and it can be very difficult if money's tight. However, like you said, one of these things is what I would tell myself now, 10 years ago, it would just be like, you know what, hindsight's a wonderful thing.
But the thing is, like you're saying, it's helped your business. And also what I guarantee it's done is it's helped you as a coach to understand that it is about calories. If you don't eat, you fucking lose weight, but that's not that sustainable.
Yeah. Well, when I started that, like, nutrition...
No, on you go.
After you.
I can remember having a month, like, when I started TS Health and Fitness within my first year, and I've only ever put this in, like, text. I've never said this out loud, like, anywhere. That I worked a full month, but because of the way my blocks worked, you paid at the start, you got 4 weeks, and then it would end, and it was the week before December, and no one stayed on.
It's painful, huh?
I made 30 quid. And I genuinely, and it was November, and it must have been. I'm sure it was my first year. November first year, and I remember looking at the book and being like, Lisa, I've made 30 quid. And she was like, what do you mean? You've been in the gym all week. And I was like, yeah, but they all paid last month.
Yeah.
I was like, I've got, like, that's 30 quid. And I was like, I don't know. I was like, I don't know if we're going to see this through. But that was the first year as well that I'd done gift vouchers. And that ended up, like, making it up. It didn't make it up, but it got me through.
Yeah, but it got you some cash in,
Yeah. And I think it also, I don't think PTs see, like, successful personal trainer like yourself that's, like, busy with clients. We'll go into this later. Second gym. Like, I don't think they'll think or even realise that, like, you've had those really hard times as well. Like, mate, you had to freaking, like, nick petrol pretty much.
Yeah. Dude, I remember it, man. You know what? I actually remember. It was the is it Shell that's at the top? You know, the road out towards Condor.
Yeah.
In Arbroath, that road out towards Condor, that petrol station just as you leave in Arbroath, it was in there, man. And I can't remember the name of the lady. Like, I know, I can see her face. And I remember it was my old, what was it, an Astra, I think it was. And I remember just pulling in, and I was like, fuck, I have to do this. If I don't, I'm going to have to phone in sick to work, or I'm going to have to cancel work, because I've literally got like fucking no fuel in the car to actually get me to work here. So I'm going to need to put in like just a tenner. A tenner's going to get me there and back. And then I'll need to just like borrow money to pay it off. But yes, there's hard times. But it's one of these things where, you know what, you just you don't think about it. You just do it. You just get up and crack on.
You just go. It's like that guy, you know, the guy that's like sat at the back of his mansion and he's like, tough times never last. Only tough people. It's like that.
You know what, mate? I don't think many folk have ever heard that story. To be fair, I actually only think Jane has, and I think maybe my parents have, but that's kind of it.
But it's good. Like, that's good, and that's exactly. I want this to just be chats, so people can see that it's not like you run around fit as anything making heaps of money.
What is it? What's the stat? It's something stupid. It's like, what, 60% of PTs within the first year or first 2 years or something like this?
It's like 90
stop
99 or something. It's like,
is it really? I couldn't remember. I knew it was high.
Because I was just about to Google it. Because I'm sure it's like 90%.
High. I thought it was high. I realized it was high, but it's knowing that, you know what, you've just got to be patient and just put the work in, put the effort in, and just try and provide. But at the end of the day, man, you can only do that for so long if there's not money coming in. You know what I mean? And when the market is saturated, when you've got loads of PTs within the business that are providing more, better, or it can be difficult for people who are starting out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, totally. And I think that's like almost like a lost thing as well. And I think it's fortunate for us as well, I guess. And we'll talk about this as well. Like, I think going through the boot camps, like, that toughens you up. I think coaching kids, you learn really quickly that a kid will do literally exactly what you tell them to do. So you have to get better at coaching and saying as little as possible. And I think that's why there's like such a high fallout rate, because what they're doing is they're like, no, I'm going to work with elite athletes one-to-one, and they expect just leapfrog.
Yeah.
Because, well, I'll admit this as well. Like, I remember, like, when I first mentored Chris Simpson, I remember being like slightly bigger than him. I don't think I was in better shape, but I was like slightly bigger. I was catching up with him pretty quickly. I was like, I'm better than this guy. Like,
but you were cleaning, jerking like 80, 90 kilos and snatching a heck of weight. I remember we had a gym session way back then, and you were a unit, man.
But the thing is, like any,
I don't brush it off.
No, like business though. Like, I showed up. You can ask Chris every day. Like, I would never, I'd never miss a session. If I got told to do something, I would just do it. Like, and I think that's helped me with business as well. Like, right, you can't just because yesterday was crap doesn't mean today is going to be crap. Like, you got to show up, and you do have to do stuff. I don't know whether it's like stupid enough to just keep showing up, or it is.
Well, it did. You know what I mean? It's got you to where you are today. It's got me to where I am today. If I had said to that one person or those two people that came when it's pissing rain, we'll just not bother, then they probably wouldn't have come back. You know what I mean? Or they would come back when it's rain, when it's sun is shining, and then it sets that kind of it's okay. It sets that behaviour, that weakness almost. So it was like showing up. I think showing up's probably the most important thing to do. And whether that's to train, whether that's in business, whether that's in life, I just show up. Yeah, I think it says a lot just showing up, to be honest.
And I think that's the only thing I'm actually good at now. Like, I think I'm just good
yeah, I'll show up 100%.
Yeah, like it's not 100%. Always good. And I don't know, like, I really hope this doesn't come across as like we're doing that like humble brag thing where we're like, seriously, that is like all I've done. Like, I've just showed up, like, with everything.
Well, I think
bodybuilding, weightlifting, business. I've just showed up. I've just not packed it in. Even after the £30 month, even after not being able to fill up the car with petrol to get to, do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
That's what it's about. And that's class to reminisce about. And that's why I wanted you on, because you come from a similar background. And like the whole, like we said when I first asked you to come on, like we're going to talk about like building up in a small town. And I think we've pretty much just like answered that whole thing. It is like you say, a client will become a friend a lot faster than a friend will become a client. And you 100%. Be friendly in a small town, and you just show up. That's almost like the recipe to it, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And how many clients do you have nowadays that you probably still keep in touch with?
Oh, like, and this is something I was actually trying to figure out how I could do. Like, how could I keep in touch with all of them?
Yeah.
But like on a personal, not just like an emailing list, not just.
Yeah, no.
Like, I was trying to think like
that gets to business, and you're in touch with these people through a connection and not through a business connection.
Yeah.
And you're right. You know what? I work closely. Me and Alan's like businesses are honestly, I could throw a stone and hit it. Like honestly, it's just like 20 yards away. So I see him almost on a day-to-day basis. He doesn't. PT, I don't PT him anymore. He goes someplace else. He goes to a CrossFit gym because he's well into his CrossFit now. So again, it was one of these things where we had a phone call and it was like, I want to get into CrossFit now because he had a lot of complications, a lot of things that happened, and he chose to go down this CrossFit route. And I says, well, listen up, I could potentially help you, but I'm not going to be the best man for the job. But I still see him, and I still go out for meals with him. I still will happily sit and have a coffee and have a chat with that guy for, as often as I can, just because, he has become a good friend, you know what I mean? And that's what I like about the job. That's what I like about the business. Sometimes I think that, I don't know if it's maybe the best because you're I don't know, you're maybe taken away from that service from that person, if that makes sense. Because but I don't know, I guess for me it's like, well, you know what, if I can treat this person with humility, treat this person with honesty, and just be myself. And if, hey, we gel and we get on and you want to go out for a beer, once this process is over, great, then, but I will still try and wholeheartedly help that person get where they need to be and want to be. Man, it's just, it's a job that's, I think people think it's always going to be easy. But going into it with the wrong intentions can make it very fucking difficult. And as I say, when I did the Herbalife stuff, it was the wrong intentions made things very difficult. As we're nowadays, it's like, Well, so the gym, we've got a brand new treadmill which I just picked up yesterday from a client. Again, an old client of mine decided to essentially donate a treadmill to our brand new our new gym. Only because of the relationship that we developed and the relationship that we built. You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. There's a contract in sign with regards to he's going to get some sessions and this that, and the next thing, but he's like, no, this is for you and this is for the work that we've done. There's a brand new Precor treadmill, which is insane.
That's class. But that's another thing that I noticed as well. Like, you know how there's like the saying, and this is way off on a tangent. Like they say, like nice guys finish last. And then they follow on with that being like, but nice guys have already like won the race, like they've already finished the race or won the race or something. Like when I started TSL and Fitness, I just tried to be as nice as I possibly could. And I went like my first year, like coffee shops in town would be like, they just be like, don't worry about it today. Or like they would maybe ask me a bit of advice on like, oh, what should I eat or this or that. and I would tell them, and then I'd get another coffee free, and like there was things like that. Like I always just think like if you're nice to people, it does come back. It might not come back instantly, and it might not come in like the sense of like financial riches or anything, but it'll be something. Like they'll maybe know someone that needs a personal trainer, and they'll give you like a testimony.
Oh, by the way, yeah, you should go see 100%.
Or like you like Frank, let's take you, like you were like, oh, I'm thinking about getting a gym. I know someone who knows someone who can get you that, and they can get you that, and they'll maybe discount you this, and you start just like getting this like huge network just from being nice. Like it's
oh, dude. Like in all honesty, I'll whole hand on heart. I will have not been able to build the 2 gyms that I've been able to build without knowing the people I know, and building the relationships that I know. 100%. Alan built my first gym for me. You know what I mean? So the unit was already there, but I never knew anything about it. You call me up one day. I need you to come down here, check this unit out, because I think it's going to be perfect for you for your gym. Great, went down. Right, you're going to need a toilet, you're going to need a shower, you're going to need an office. I'll build it for you, no problem. You know what I mean? So it's without that, and without that relationship, that would have cost me double the amount of money than what it did. And it's the same with the second place. Again, another client of mine is building relationships, and it's building these friendships, and it's me saying to Gav, who built my second gym. Well, don't get me wrong, the unit was already there, but it was him. So there's obviously just the shell, but putting everything in essentially. It was just, without these people, and without all the other people that have helped along the way that you've you know, it would have been a hell of a lot harder. 100%, and a hell of a lot more fucking expensive, that's for sure. But it's just literally the relationship that you built, and it's the people that you know.
I kind of want to flip this on its head and go into like, there's also the other side of this. Like there's people that you meet that you don't get along, or there's people that like don't see your vision. And I've actually come up to like, I've kind of hit a point now where like, going the opposite way. I won't coach friends.
Okay.
I don't like doing it, because what happens is I get like a real in-depth look into their life, and what I've found is it almost like it pulls apart the relationship, like the friendship, and it changes it to something else. And that's something that like I'm struggling with at the minute. Like I don't like taking on friends or family, and I don't know if you still do or.
No, to be honest, so I don't mind coaching friends and family, but I will always have, I'll say lowered expectations.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is the fact is they always expect you to put on mates rates. So the minute that I always find someone who says, oh, can you coach me? Or a mate asks, or a family member asks, it's like, well, I don't think you will take it as seriously from me than you would from me pointing you to Thomas, for example. You know what I mean? My brother coming to me for PT and me saying, right, Gareth, you've got to do X, Y, and Z. I bet you any money he will either say A, fuck off, or B, yeah, sure thing, and not do anything about it. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, one, he knows me personally, and he knows me very well. He's one of my best friends. Obviously, he's my brother. And two, you'll not put any skin in the game. So there's no money there on the table. So there's no investment for him whatsoever, other than I want to be healthier. Well, if you're going to pay me £50, or you're going to pay Thomas £300, obviously I don't know what you charge, but him putting money on and saying I'm serious about changing, and I need to put this money in. He's gonna see a better result by putting or going to see somebody else than coming to see me. 100%. I'll happily coach them and I'll happily train them, but I don't always. If I do, I always say you might be better going to see somebody else, because you will probably find you will take it seriously from coming from somebody else, because you sit across the dinner table from me for years, and I've told you how good protein is, and I've told you how much food you should be consuming, and I've told you how important your water is, and I've told you how much you need to actually get to the gym and exercise because your body's in fucking bits, but you still don't listen to me. It's one of these things where I don't really. I have coach friends, especially like more in an online capacity, and some listen, some don't. But it's one of these things where it's, you know what, sometimes it's having, I suppose, not a responsibility, but it's just knowing to say, nah, you probably should go elsewhere because you're going to benefit from going elsewhere.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. Like I've coached some friends and got amazing results with them. But I feel like the closer they are to like your inner circle,
yeah,
some people will be blown away by this. Like we do like to have a beer, we like to have a drink, we like to get drunk, we like to have a meal off, like we like to just eat junk food. When someone that's like in your inner circle sees you doing it, they almost have this like, well, you're doing it, so I'm going to do it as well. And you're like, but I know that just 2 days ago, you were out for someone's birthday, so it doesn't really line up. And they're like, oh well, nah, well if you're like, and I had stuff like that happen as well, and I was kind of just like, I don't want to ruin their night, I don't want to ruin their weekend, so.
And the thing is, you don't want to ruin the relationship that you guys have developed just because of it. You know what I mean? Yeah. More importantly, like you don't need to ruin that friendship just because your bro's not like doing what he's supposed to be doing.
Yeah, 100%. So I'll give you the perfect example. I don't think he'll listen. He might, and if he does, I hope he does realize that like there's like no animosity or anything from my side towards him. But when I was coaching him, I think he realized that he was making a lot of excuses, and I didn't say anything about it. But I think he realized, and I think he maybe got a little bit embarrassed. So instead of just being like, "Oh look, I think I'm doing this," he then started like he just kind of stopped speaking to me.
Oh really?
Yeah, and I tried to guide him, and I was like, "Look, you need to understand." I was like, "Look, you are busy. These things may need to happen, but we can make them fit in." And he was just like, "Nah, it's not going to work. It's not going to work." And I was like,
"Fuck."
And then it would be like, "Oh, but I needed to do this, and I needed to eat this, and I needed to eat that," and I was like, "We didn't, but we can fit those things in if it's like going to make life easier." And it was just like, and then the next thing, I just ghosted. And it was like someone that I would like stop and speak to in the street. Yeah. Like someone I'd stop and speak to in the street. Yeah, he helped me out with a few things. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe it was too like, well, I don't know. But yeah, I kind of from there.
Sorry. No, on you go, finish.
From there, I kind of like, if someone messages me as like a friend or a close friend, or even if it's like a close friend of a partner of a close friend, like I will say to them like, look, I don't really like to take people on for this reason. Mm-hmm. And if there is for like any second you start to feel our relationship starting to like peel apart or anything like that, we're stopping and I'll get you a full refund.
Nah, good on you, man, because a lot of coaches wouldn't, you know what I mean? But yeah, no, I totally agree. I think it's coaching friends and family is great, especially when you see them flourish and they enjoy the process. But I always find that it can be very difficult to do, just because they might not necessarily take you seriously. Especially the closer you are with that individual, I think the harder it is to coach them, because they will never be able to see you as the coach. They will only see you as brother, sister, uncle, whatever it might be, friend, best friend, fill the blank.
To be fair though, in the same sentence, probably my best transformation is my sister.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, hers was cracking. She did great.
Yeah, she's still unbelievable. And then there was a couple girls that I worked with from uni that I done really well with, or we done really well. There's just been a few things, but the thing is, it always seems to be the closer they are, like the bigger the riff, or like it's.
Yeah.
But no, I didn't know if. And the thing is, I was kind of maybe trying to hope to get that to turn into like clients that have been nightmares, but I think we could dodge them. I don't think we need to really talk about them. I
don't think I've had any really like nightmare clients. Like I'm not really like, nobody really springs to mind in like my head that like, oh fuck, that person was just awful. I think if I did have a client who was not nice, they just didn't stay. They didn't last. I was like, you know what? Bye. I'm done. I think there was a period before, maybe about 6-7 years ago now, where I did a big call, and I was just like, don't want to work with you. Don't want to work with you. Don't want to work with you anymore. Just kind of like, call a lot of my clients, because it was just like, I felt like people just dragged you down and just brought negative energy, and just, well, you know what it's like when you're working with 6, 7, 8 clients back to back, day on day. It's you're working with a lot of people, and when you feel like you've got to be quite high energy, or you need to know that client 1 and client 8, you need to be given the same. And you need to feel like you're given the same amount of energy, you're given the same kind of positive energy, and you need to make sure that they are receiving the same from client 1 to client 8. So from 6 a.m. to potentially 8, 9 o'clock at night, you need to be on your A game. And when someone's coming in and if all they're doing is just, I don't know, you can't pick them up, you can't change them, you can't move them forward. There was some that I just, and they're just not necessarily nasty, but you were just difficult to work with. Yeah. And sometimes I was like, you know what, this isn't working. I think you maybe need to find a new personal trainer. And I thought those were the clients that I suppose what I found difficult was the clients who took far too much of my energy and just made me almost dread the thought of, fuck, I've got so and so next. You know what, I can't be doing with this, just because it can be difficult. And when you're expected to be, right, let's go, how are you, how's things, let's get you motivated, let's push, we're going to do X, Y, and Z, how's your week planning, you know, and when it was, it made things difficult. So they're the clients that I thought to myself, right, these are the people that are taking too much from me, and it's then making me not give as much for everybody else. They're the ones that I kind of thought, right, well, you know what, I'm gonna have to say goodbye to you because you can go someplace else. Yeah. But no, I like off the top of my head, I can't think of any individual. Like, no one was nasty, nobody was, you know, mean, or nobody was just not really willing. There was obviously people not willing to work. They would come to a personal trainer and thinking, I've got a PT. This is going to be the magic one. This is all I need. And they were the clients that got told, listen, you're going to either make these changes or you're going to need to go, essentially, because yes, you're just ticking the box here, but I don't really want to just work with somebody who wants to tick the box. That was in the past. You know what I mean?
Yeah, when you start, and like people might not know this, when you start working one-to-one with someone, and it does become very much personal training. They start to open up a lot more. They start to tell you more. They bring their problems and share them with you, and like it becomes part of our job. And I almost used to feel like it would be like you would start here, you would build that person up, the next person would come in, you'd build them up, the next person, and like you would leave everybody feeling like people could come in feeling absolutely terrible, but they would leave your session like hugging you, actually hugging you, being like, thanks 100%. So much. And then,
how many clients have broken down in tears to you?
Like I've lost count. Like I've genuinely lost count.
Yeah, 100%. So many, and the thing is, it's to be in that position where that person trusts you so much that they can give you and tell you almost everything to the point where they are breaking down in tears or having, like, I've had a couple of panic attacks because people have been telling me things, and it's then how you approach that and your humility as a coach, you know what I mean? But then that's what brings everybody and brings these people back, because they're like, you know, I trust them wholeheartedly, and not necessarily just with my journey and with my process, but actually with the information that I'm going to give them. Because
I also, like, if any of my clients are listening, I want them to know that, like, what they have said, I've taken to the grave. Like, there is stuff that I have
100%. 100%.
That I will have to take to the grave. Like, I can't even tell Lisa, because if it slipped out of her mouth, it could ruin families, businesses. Yep. Like, you can't. Like, there's stuff that you hear.
Well, these people tell you these things for a reason. You know what I mean? And the reason, like, and they obviously trust you. So why? Like, for me, it's like, well, I'm not going to break that trust. I'm not going to tell fucking so and so after you what you just told me. That's not how this works. No. Yeah.
It's funny as well, like, going to, like, see when you're talking about, like, clients that, like, you were like, oh, I used to have this girl. I actually, by the end, like, really liked her. I still, to this day, don't understand, like, for every day, how are you getting on? Is there anything you really don't want to do today? She would always answer, I don't want to be here. Honestly. Every session.
How great does that make you feel as a person, when someone's like, yeah, I don't want to be here. It's like, cool, well, what the fuck am I supposed to do to try and pick you up? And how am I supposed to, like, make you feel like good? And because now you've just brought me right the fuck down. And it's like, you don't value me, or you don't value my time, so why the fuck am I supposed to value you and your time? I'm like, yeah, I that's hard, man. That's hard. I know it's
stayed with me for like 6 months.
Like, dude, that's impressive. Well done. That's impressive.
Like, I just don't know, but like,
But that's it.
Honestly.
Some people just don't like exercising, and some people just don't like going to the gym and training. And this is it. And I guess it goes back to we love it. We love training. We love pushing ourselves hard. We love going to the gym. We love working out, and we've made a career out of it. However, a lot of people out there fucking hate it. And it's then, you know what? Yeah, you're gonna work with a lot of people like that, I suppose, throughout this process. And I guess I have too, but maybe not necessarily to the point where folk are like, yeah, I fucking hate it and I don't want to be here.
Another one that always makes me laugh as well is like, right, look, last set and then you're done. Yes, thank God. And you're like,
yeah, great, cool, yeah, great. I'm glad you've really enjoyed the past 50 minutes. Yeah,
you've coached your heart and soul out, and they're just like, oh, thank God.
I know. Or you come up with like a massive plan of action for the week. You get in touch with them like 2 or 3 days after. Like, right, how's it going? How are you? We're just touching base. Oh yeah, I've done zero. I've not done anything. And it's just like, okay.
I'm gonna take an off week. And you're like,
yeah.
So from all of these like coaching conversations, I always try and pry something from someone. Like for me to try and learn. Like, this is an opportunity for me to learn. I want to talk nonsense. I love that side of it. Like, I love chatting shop. You've been really good with your dad bod programs. Something that I've noticed in the past is a lot of men will come on board. I'll give them everything. How to track calories. I'll even give them a couple of nutrition days, like guidelines to follow that match up what they've said that they eat. Training plans, step targets. Like, all the tools. Week goes by, and you're like, how are things? Like, or a few days go by. Oh, I've still not read what you've sent, but this is what I've been doing.
Yeah.
And you're like, why did you give me money? Like, I don't understand. Or what you'll get is like 2-3 check-ins. You'll get a response that's almost like, I like what you've said to do, but I'm just going to do it my own way. And you know their own way is terrible.
It's not working.
Way is like the start of a yo-yo diet, and you're like, this is not what I'm about. How do you get so many men to like buy into what you do and then get through the process and come out the other end?
Good question, mate. And in all honesty, I'm still trying to figure that out. Like the dad. So I've done, I suppose, a couple of dad bods within the gym, and I think the group aspect makes a massive difference. I think having done like loads of classes, 95 to 99% of the people who attend those classes are women. And back in the day when I did classes at Lochside Leisure Centre, or not, I suppose at other centres I maybe had done classes, you might have, I don't know, 2 or 3 boys come. And then all of a sudden the week after, those 2 or 3 boys don't come back because it's 99% women. Yeah. However, as I was building the gym up, I always wanted to have like a men's only session and a men's only class, because I knew that all the classes that we will put on will, again, majority of it will be women that will come. However, again, lo and behold, 1 or 2 boys come. Again, lo and behold, the week after, 1 boy comes. Lo and behold, the week after, he doesn't fucking show back up again. No. So having that men's only class there was a great opportunity then for just boys to come. And it was one of the busiest classes of the week because I would have 8 to 10 guys filling that class constantly. So when I did the dad bod kind of program, it had to be, for me, it had to be a group thing, because then having that group aspect, I think, changed it a lot, because you then have a bunch of boys who actually are in this whole thing together, and they're as we say, in the trenches together, but they're doing this whole thing together. They're going through this whole process together. They're going from step 1 to 2 to 3 all at the same kind of time, so it kind of made it almost easier for them to kind of cope with that. So the changes that they all made were done as a group, which is why I think it worked best, and worked well. They would show up to the gym. We would have our group session 1 to 2 times a week. We would still have your nutrition protocols, and we still have all your targets, and they would all get their all the things that you've listed. Don't get me wrong, some of them would do some stuff, some of them wouldn't do the other stuff. However, they would all, again, show up. and they would all be there, and they would all be like, right, I didn't do X, Y, and Z. Okay, neither did I. Actually, I need to do better. Yeah, you know what, we should all do better. And it was having that almost accountability within the group, which made things just work a little bit smoother, compared to just, your one-to-one individual kind of clients who are just like, yeah, I've seen it, read it, yeah, it's cool. I'm still probably going to go my way. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't. Is it the group aspect that changed it? Maybe. Is it?
Could be.
Yeah, could be. I'd love to give you a specific answer to why I think it's really worked, but I don't know if I can, Tom.
I don't even know if I wanted specific. I think I just wanted your answer, to be honest.
Yeah.
So this is going to be like a double-sided question, and then we'll wrap up because I'm sure you're busy and you need to get off.
Yeah, no worries, dude. No worries.
So,
I've got time, man. I've got time. I kind of made sure I left plenty of time in this for this because I wasn't sure. 'Cause I knew we would ramble, man. I knew we would just
keep going,
ramble on.
So I would love to know, like, so you've run a product now, Dad Bod. You yourself are now a dad, and I would love to know what sort of impact that had on training and nutrition, and if
becoming a dad.
Yeah, so for me, I don't have kids. I don't know if I ever will. So sometimes I can understand and I can empathise that like that takes up a lot of time, but I don't actually know in detail. I've not experienced what it's like to become a dad and how that can impact time, sleep, what you do get to eat, training, and I would love to hear how it's impacted your own training and nutrition.
In the very beginning, it was very difficult because it was. I would say I'm fortunate because Jane does the same thing as me. So we have two personal trainers that live under the same roof who will continually want to try to eat healthy, go to the gym. So when you have that counterpart that wants to continue to move forward and go to the gym, train, eat healthy, don't get me wrong, we still eat what we want. But anyway, it makes the process easier. And it made it a hell of a lot easier for the both of us because we were both in there at the same time. Now, when it comes to, I suppose, being a dad, so I don't know, I had a thought about this actually. Maybe it was like a week ago. Maybe it was when you spoke to me about coming on this podcast. I kind of had a thought like, well, how easy was it and how difficult was it? And when I look back, or in my head, I'm like, I wasn't that bad. But when you like actually look back, it was pretty difficult. And when I look back at myself, being a PT or a young PT and telling mums and dads, oh, but you just got to do fucking this. All you got to do is eat this and drink that and, get sleep and da-da-da-da. And it's like, yeah, but so what? You got kids. Cool. It's not an issue. However, it's like, now that I'm here and in that position, I'm like, yeah, it's a hell of a lot harder. And it's a hell of a lot more difficult than what I thought it was. And that's me being a personal trainer, and that's me being, where I am and what I want to achieve with myself. Never mind just fucking Sandra, who I keep picking on, who's works a 9 to 5 and is just coming to you, and it's like, no, Sandra, we got to have 150 grams of protein, and we need to have get you spiking that protein synthesis. You need to be eating 3-4 times a day, and it's managing expectations. And it's not putting yourself too much stress on yourself and thinking that everything needs to be perfect. Back in the day when Ellison came along, sleep was horrible, and that was probably one of the toughest things, was the fact it was asleep. It was lack of, and yourself, lack of sleep will lead to pretty much lack of and poor everything else. Throughout Jane's pregnancy, it was packet Haribo every single night because that's what she wanted. And she went through a pickle phase, so she had like jars of pickles like constantly, and I was like, you can have that yourself, go ahead. So food-wise, nutrition-wise, from her being pregnant was always quite low. As in, the quality was always good, but the quantity was high. So calories were always up. So, and then once little man arrived, sleep was poor. So again, it was like for a good couple of months, it was just pretty shit quality food. However, one thing we did do was we trained and we went to the gym. Mm-hmm. And we relentlessly went to the gym. And I can actually remember now having this conversation, I put a post up. I think I got like a PB and a back squat or something like this. This was a couple of years ago. This was when Ellison was maybe like, 6 months, maybe 9 months old. And it was just because it was like, I can't remember what I said. It was something like, just show up. and we didn't want to go to the gym. We didn't, we were tired. You were just done in, felt exhausted, but you went in and you ticked the box. It wasn't as if you were pushing things hard. You were just there to just try and do some form of exercise. And then 6 months down the line, sleep hit, or almost like 8-9 months down the line, he was sleeping better, so performance started increasing. This, that, and the next thing, and lo and behold, I got a PB. But the post was all about just, we went to the gym and we did what we could.
This is something that we both kind of preach, is like, you're wanting to improve your normal. And I guess your normal was like solid enough that even when like chaos was happening, normal was still like probably a source of protein, some sort of vegetables, and then a carb source, just bigger portions. And I wonder if that's like, well, that's obviously a key aspect. And then I wonder what part of it is like the support at home, like the partner, the environment.
Yeah. I think that made a massive difference, because if it wasn't me saying to Jane, let's go to the gym, it was Jane saying to me, let's go to the gym. Don't get me wrong, there'll be times be like, you want to go to the gym? No, I'm exhausted, I'm tired, I need to rest. Cool, let's go. Let's just chill the fuck out, we'll go for a walk. You know what I mean? But having that individual there that still wants to do that with you, and like, she's my gym partner, you know what I mean? She's my training partner. So having your training partner there being like, let's go. Great, let's go. You know what I mean? Or I can't be arsed, and it's like, well, I'll make you strong coffee and we're going to go to the gym. You know what I mean? It's like, you've not got a choice. Let's just go. We're going to go and move. So with regards to whether it's Ellison and my 2 gyms, they're the 3 biggest things that have put my training, put my nutrition right down. Just because of the stress that it caused for it. And I always preach to my clients, just control what you can control. But sometimes when stress gets difficult and it gets hard, it's just like your motivation drops, your diet just goes down, sleep goes down. So, yeah. But those were the 3 biggest factors that I've always noticed. Like, even the news place we opened up maybe just a couple of weeks ago, my gym training for the past, I don't know, it's better now, towards the latter stages of November. However, like September and October, shit. I think I probably only hit maybe like 2 or 3 sessions, late September, October. Like, in that kind of 3-week period, it was like a session a week at the most. But it's how I process and how I manage my stress. That's what, again, it's how I kind of see it. If I go to the gym and I've got 101 things to do, I cannot switch off to then focus on my gym session, because while I'm doing my bicep curls, all I can think about is, I've got to contact so-and-so, I've got to contact so-and-so, I've got to contact, so I can't be present. And then for me, when I was like, well, what's the point of me being in here when I can't be present if I'm just like, aimlessly lifting weights here? So
which is like, to hear that you were only training like once a week is crazy, because I can remember when we were me and Chris Simpson were driving out to your gym. Chris was saying he was constantly trying to get you to slow down, because you would train like 5. You would train as many times as you could in a day. You would go in and you would just send it.
Yeah, I would. So I would have easily and happily trained 4 or 5 times a week. Happily. If whether that's bodybuilding, whether that's Olympic lifting, whether that's kind of CrossFit was, doesn't really matter. I would have happily have just, as we're now, I don't know how I'm going to manage my time and my training over the next kind of, say, 2-3 month period. The more I keep thinking about it, the more I keep thinking that I don't necessarily need to be training like 5 to 6 times. Like, right now, I'm in my head, I'm like, you know what, if I hit 3 sessions a week right now, I'm going to be quite comfortable and quite happy with. And just because I feel like I've got a lot of things to do, a lot of businesses to, like my business, whether it's my personal one-to-one business or my gyms, these need to be built up. And like yourself, like you know yourself, it's time and it's energy, and there's more time and energy needs to be put into these aspects than my own personal training right now. I would rather see my businesses, my gyms, and I suppose my coaching, online coaching, all this kind of stuff build back up to a point where I'm happy and I've got certain things that I want to achieve next year, and me training 5-6 times in the fucking gym isn't going to help move these things further forward. So it's me reevaluating, I suppose, my goals and making sure that I can move these things where they need to be. That's what I'm finding now is more important.
I guess that's like a good thing for people to hear, because again, like the majority of people that probably will be listening to this, Wade, will be like gem pop people, and like for them to understand that like nothing's perfect, and sometimes things are so far from perfect that they have to take a back seat, and that happens with everybody.
100%.
And I think a lot of people that do just think that like, oh, you've got it made, you've got a gym, you should be able to show up. Like, nah, there's other things that like pull you away, and that can be happening to like the gem pop people that are listening. Like, it could be kids, it could be stress at work.
100%.
It's figuring out, like you've done, there's a place where I'll be able to feel okay training that much. But any more than that, it's going to just add stress. It's going to make me feel worse, and it's going to take away from everything. And I think that's like the sweet spot that people need to try and find. Everybody needs to try and find with life, and then in phases of life.
100%, and it's individual for everybody, you know. And this is why, as a coach, you will always see people from where they are. Where are you now, and what can you do? You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, this is a blanket approach. No, you should be training 5 times a week. That's not how this is. It's a matter of, oh, you're only hitting the gym once a week. Cool. Can I get you doing 2? You know what I mean? How do you manage your stress then with 2 sessions a week? Cool. Not too bad. Great. Do we need a 3rd? No. Fine. Great. Can we get you doing a bit more walk? You know what I mean? So you're right. It's completely true, man. It's not, and I think that's the beauty about the job that we try and do, is it's the fact that it's very personal, and it's also the fact that I think people overthink the process and think that they need to be training 4 or 5 times a week, 6 times a week, and it's like, nah, you really don't. You know what I mean? But then I think that's when it gets to your social media starts to screw with a lot of people's heads, because they think that they should look in a particular way and see themselves in a particular way, and it's like, well, no, that's again not really conducive to how you should look and how you should be. But I suppose it's me going off in a bit of a tangent. However,
no, it's still on. It's like, but that's the whole thing. Like, there's this like, I think there's like this vision. Like, we're all now looking into social media and thinking that is like how reality is. But we all know it's a highlight. We all know it's not real life. But because we see it so much, like, what is it to say? What you think about, you become, or something like that. Like, if you're constantly thinking about like, I'm not doing that well, I'm not doing that well. Like, it does put people off, and you'll be the same as me. How good is it when you get a client that's like, oh, all my life I've been doing like 8 workouts a week, I've been doing all these classes, and you're like, right, okay, let's take a week away, we'll just hit a step target and we'll hit a certain amount of calories, and they're like, Jesus Christ, that's the first time, and that's the first week in years that I've lost a pound, and you're like, right, now we know what we're doing, you're going to buy into this a little bit more, let's just do a bit less, and then they're like, oh, you're a wizard. How do you know how to do this?
But it's very easy to fall into that trap, because I've fell into that trap myself. You know what I mean? When Chris was coaching me, it was like, yeah, I do this and I do this and I do this and I do this. You know what I mean? I hit 5 to 6 times a week. I was like, yeah, let's go. And he was like, right, well, we're going to pencil in like 4 sessions. I'm like, but I can do more. I'm like, but I can do more, and I want to do more. And then it was like, right, well, you know what? Just slow the fuck down, actually.
Yeah.
And you get such a better result if you slow down, if you do that a little bit less and actually take your recovery a bit more seriously. But yeah, when you see what other people are doing, and hold on, hey, what's this? Say hi, Tom.
Hi.
Say hi.
Hello.
Hi, Tom.
Say how you doing, Thomas?
Hi. How you doing, Thomas?
I'm good, thank
This
you.
is
How are you?
Ellison.
Good.
Good. Right, you're gonna go and eat your brownies.
Dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to give you one.
Oh, thanks, man.
The Iron Head
Oh,
one.
what a man.
I will. Can I have this one?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. You take that. Thanks. Cheers, bud. Cheers.
Cheers.
You go see mommy. You go see mommy.
Hey, I'll tell you what, one of my favourite videos still to this day on the internet was him on his scooter.
No, not my dodo.
Right. Sorry. You lock it in. Right, go take it to my mum. Will help you out. All right. You got it. Good boy. Sorry, dude. What are you saying?
One of the funniest videos I've still to this day seen was him on his scooter. When you were
Oh,
recording.
him. Yeah, going down the hill. That little wobble. Oh man. Yeah. That was. It was. To be fair, I actually got up pretty quickly. I was kind of see when it happened. So it was like the school just at the back end of us. It's just got this kind of little like low kind of gradient hill. So he was at the top of it, and we were almost like doing it in stages. So I started like say like, all right, so there's say 10 meters, right? Scoot down there, great. We're gonna go up the hill like another like 10 meters up. Let's scoot down the hill now. So we got to like almost the top of it, and I was like, right, let's go. He was like, quite far up. and he was building this pace up, and I was like, yes, mate, go on. And all of a sudden he passes me, and as he passes me, like zooms past, you just see that little wobble. I'm like, oh shit, oh no. And all of a sudden, boom, falls and smashes. Yeah, it was...
Bless him. It was funny because it was live. Like,
yeah.
recording as that was happening.
Yeah. Yeah, but to be fair, give him his due. He got back up. He got back on the scooter. And I was waiting to say he tried again, but at least he got back on his scooter. He went scooting again, which was the main thing. I think the pound that he got from this random lady helped. He got a gold coin, so he was like, "Yeah, jackpot! I'll take that." Yeah, so
That'll do it. I'll try again.
Yeah, it helped.
So that question there was going to lead into, like, do you currently have any like fitness goals, or is it more business oriented just now?
Nah, to be honest with you, mate, yeah, it is. Right now, it's kind of all more business oriented. I suppose my fitness. Now, I guess at this stage where I feel like I know that my fitness will forever be changing. Like looking back at the journey my fitness has taken. Yes, I want to become fitter. Yes, I want to be stronger. Yes, I want to just be able to do better and be better in the gym. However, it's not as if I feel like the reason that I train nowadays is just because I want to be able to do everything. You know what I mean? I don't necessarily want to just be the biggest. Back in the day, it was like, I want to be the biggest person in the gym. Don't get me wrong, I never was. I never will be. And then it was like, I want to be the strongest person in the gym. And again, I never was and I never will be. But now it's like, well, actually, I want to be able to rock up and whatever's thrown at me, I can do. So if you know what I mean, it's like, you want me to squat, 100 plus Ks? Yeah, cool, let's go. You want me to go and run 5K or 10K? Yeah, cool, let's go. You want me to, get in a deep dark hole and just do nothing but fucking burpees for an hour, whatever it might be, you know what I mean? Cool, let's go. For me, that's I suppose now more important, to be able to have that mental fortitude to be like, I don't mind what the gym session is, whether it's Olympic lifting, whether it's bodybuilding, whether it's just an hour slog of whatever it might be. Let's just go. That's, I suppose, it's not really a necessarily goal. It's just how I see myself now working with my training and how I want my training to be. It's just I want it to be a bit more challenging, but I want it to be completely varied. However, it's not really going to be conducive to me building a lot of muscle. However, it is just going to, I suppose, be a bit more enjoyable because it's just going to be completely varied and completely different, and it's just going to be a bit more challenging. But the biggest challenge for me is now I've got a lot of goals that I want to do for the gym, and I suppose personal business, but right now more importantly the gym. That's where my main focus is. I kind of want to develop that.
Maybe jump on another time and talk about that, because it'd be cool to hear about the transition from being a personal trainer to a gym owner. But that again, that'll be like an hour-long conversation.
Yeah, we could talk about that for quite some time, man. But yeah. Even if we meet for a cup of coffee in town, whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. So the final question that I ask everybody that comes on, because the podcast is called Man, and I want this to be a space where maybe young men or men of any age hear about all these different men in their area and the way that they live their lives, and there's not one set way to be, and there's not like a set identity to be a man. What do you think makes a good man?
Oh, great question. What makes a good man? Man, that's a good question, dude. I think what makes a good man, it's a very hard question. However, I think for me, it's having good morals, a good foundation, a good work ethic. It's showing up for the people who need you the most. There's obviously multiple facets to being a man. It's being supportive. It's being, I suppose it depends on who you're speaking to. For me, being a dad, it's being supportive. It's being understanding to my partner, to my son. It's making sure that they are being supported and making sure that he will develop to be, a better version of me. I don't know, mate. It's a very difficult question.
Mate, that's a perfect answer. Genuinely perfect answer. Honestly. Good man. I appreciate that. Honestly, Wade, thank you so much. Now that the family are back, what we'll do is we'll get you with them. What I'll do is I'll get all your social medias, your website, the gym address. I'll put that in the description on YouTube and on Spotify. But honestly, mate, thank you so much for coming on. I really do.
No,
appreciate
thanks
it.
for having me, man. It's been much appreciated, and it's been nice talking to you. It's good seeing you again.
Yeah, you too.